Greetings, everyone, and welcome again to Cats on Guard. It's the podcast where we are opening the flight deck door, sharing all the secrets that you've always wondered or maybe never wondered, but now you're finding them out. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And you're going to hear some interesting things today. We've got a quirky, weird list of things we have all seen. My name is MC Howe. I'll be your captain today. I've been a pilot. I've been flight instructor, a flight attendant even. I've flown cargo. I've flown for the airlines. And joining me today, as always, is Rich Million.
Captain Richard Million. Co-captain Richard Million.
You like that term, co-captain?
I don't like
it. Seems like half a captain.
I don't like co-pilot.
I don't like co-pilot. No, co-pilot is like, I had to explain this. I had an interesting conversation with my mother-in-law the other day where I had to explain, which I've been married almost 29 years and I've been doing this job for 25 of those years almost. To finally get people in your life asking you at this stage what your job is like, does it kind of blow your mind? Do people do that to you?
All the time.
It's like I had to explain to her, what's the difference? She said something about co-pilot. I said, well, explain that to me. What's the difference? And she didn't know. So I said, well, go listen to Cats on Guard. And now she's hooked. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I have a hard time explaining these things. There's so many decade-old stereotypes or just I would say ignorant knowledge where like, oh, I saw that once on a movie. The co-pilot sits there and reads the map for the pilot. That's not how it goes.
Yeah.
That's not how it goes. I fly every other
sure?
leg. It could in some cockpits. In fact, in a future episode, I got to tell you about a guy who truly thought that the other guy should just sit there and read the map.
Well, I'm glad to hear that's not the case because a long, long time ago, back when I had an actual real job, I was really early 20s and I decided I was going to become a flight attendant because I couldn't stand sitting at a desk, staring at a computer screen or watching. Basically, I just watched the clock. And when 5 o'clock came, I could stop watching the clock, go home. I got a job as a flight attendant and I was leaving to go. It was like one of my last days and there was a lady working there. She wasn't the brightest bulb in the light bank at that job. And she said, well, I said, I'm going to become a flight attendant. She was like, what's that? Is that like a pilot's assistant? Oh, yeah, kind of. And, I'm going to, carry his hat for him and fold up his map. So you're saying that isn't what we do?
No, it's not. And the flight attendants, I assure you, do not carry the pilot's hat.
And the pilots that carry their own hat, boy, they really get it from the guys that wear the hat, right?
I'll tell you what some of them do carry is animosity.
Yeah. I don't even know what that means, but that's funny. I was just reading something just before I was on the flying subreddit. You ever go on Reddit?
No, I use Reddit to answer random questions for how do I change the spark plug in my car. I don't look at it for aviation.
Right. No, I don't specifically either, but Reddit is like that one person in your life that learns one thing about you and suddenly that's everything about you to that person. So if I'm going in there and asking a question about, how to change a tire, all of Reddit to me is tire changing. So, I visit a lot of different subreddits and the flying one came up and a guy was lamenting that he was doing working on his commercial pilot license and he was worried about not meeting the requirements based on a certain regulation. And he cited the number of the regulation, FAR 62.1, subsection A, subsection I. So he didn't say what any of this was. He just put the number down there as if we all carry that around in our brain. And it reminded
that sounds like something that a commercial candidate would do.
No, well, it reminded me when I was working as a flight instructor and chief pilot of the flight training company who was married to the owner. He would always throw those regulations at us. Like, you come to him with a question. Hey, what are we doing? Well, you'll recall from FAR 6392.7, what are we doing? And then he would just go on and we're all, we all recall that.
See, right? This is why I don't do aviation Reddit. So aviation people just have this superiority complex. And when you put a lot of people that all think they're the best in the same. Look at Top Gun, the movie, the first one. Everyone in that room's flipping a pen around their finger. They're the coolest hot shot in the room. Who's going to be the best? I'm the best. And so everybody's got their shtick that makes them feel like they're better than you. And that's why I can't do group aviation things.
Okay, but let me just, 40 years later, don't you dare tell me that you can't flip that pen around your fingers.
No, but I don't know what 61.257 Alpha Bravo 3 subsection 2 is, and I won't.
Well, you know who does?
The guy that runs the flight school.
The guy walking around with a hat firmly perched atop his head.
But that's because that's his thing. He wants you to know that he knows that, because he knows that and you don't. He's better than you.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's just so weird. You see that everywhere. You see that in the terminal. You see that in the pilot lounge. You see it just everywhere with aviation.
And when you do see it in the terminal, like when you and I are walking around the terminal and we see another pilot coming at us the other way.
Oh, wait, what kind of pilot? There's different types of pilots in the terminal.
Well, let's just say generic pilot, okay? Before we get into the details of it, you're walking. You got your pilot uniform on. He's got his pilot uniform on. You're walking at each other. You pass each other. What happens?
All right, so kind of prefaces. You and I already know where this is going because we live this.
Yeah.
For those at home, we're all living a monotonous lifestyle in the terminal. There's changes in the cockpit that make us use our expertise, but in the terminal, it's the same thing. Get out of the van, go to security, stand in the line, get upset, get out of security, go get a coffee. It's the same every day, 4 to 5 times a day sometimes for some of these pilots. Anyway, we walk past the other pilot. He sees you in your uniform. He knows you're either going home or going to work, depending on how you look in your face. You see him or her, and they're walking the other way. They're either going to work or going home, and you just a head nod. It's just like a short lift of the forehead in a gesture of, I know you're doing it too.
We're here together. But now, okay, so you're going to get the head nod. Usually, there are occasions where it's complete. I'm going to ignore that you even exist because I'm so much better than you.
That's a certain company that will not be named, but has very pristine uniforms.
Yeah, very pristine and
double-breasted.
So they won't look at it,
if you will.
Well, okay, sure. But then there's a urban legend. I don't know if this is true. I really don't. I've never paid as close enough attention. So if it's a pilot for your own company, the legend goes, you give the head nod up, the up nod.
I haven't heard of that. That's new to me.
And if it's another company, you give it down.
Haven't heard of that, but I do give more of a verbal if it's available. Like good morning, how you doing?
Oh, look at you!
To my own company, and then very rarely will I dish the verbal out to somebody out. They have to look like they really want to hear it. Because some people have just finished an all-nighter or they're on their third leg of the day and ready to go home. They don't need small talk as they walk through the terminal.
No, nobody wants that.
In fact, we don't want to be talked to at all, for the record, everyone.
No. Oh, no.
We only have that many minutes on the ground per day that we're not in the air, and we got to catch up with what's going on with our wives and our homes and our families and friends, and we only have that time before we're back to bed, ready for the next day. So we're probably pretty busy in our own heads when we're not in the cockpit.
Yeah,
just
in
leave
our
us
heads.
Alone.
We're definitely busy. Some of us are busy in our heads. Some of us are carrying around empty heads. But I don't want to talk to these people either. I don't. And to be honest, I don't even understand this camaraderie, this fraternity that we're all in. Because like my dad, he sold Xerox machines for 30 years. Do you think that when he was, going around to wherever, Kinko's didn't exist back then, but do you think that other salesmen, you think they recognize each other carrying around with their
100%,
three-piece suits
100%.
back in the 70s with their three-piece suits and their briefcases?
Salespeople can see salespeople from a mile away, and all it takes is a couple words out of their mouth to know it. But if they don't speak, you wouldn't know.
But do they notice? Do they give each other the acknowledgement walking past? You're in the lobby of the big office building. You're going up to make a big sale somewhere, and you passed another guy who's doing the same.
No,
They might not be selling the same product, but they're selling something.
I think that if you look at historically, like the footage of like a New York City sidewalk, pre-cell phones, everyone was just looking straight ahead and walking to where they had to go. Nobody was identifying each other. The other thing you can consider is now that cell phones are here, we have a second dimension of where our eyes need to be while we're going where we're going. So we're not actively looking around us
Yeah,
most of the time.
yeah, we are. Well, you know who does do this? I encountered this. This made me so happy one day. I was in an airport and I was in an escalator going down, and standing a couple of steps ahead of me was a Hasidic Jewish person, with the hat and the curls
Is it
and
the curly hair? Okay, the curls by the ears. I know what you're
the
talking
curls
about.
by the ears and anyway, one of these people on the escalator ahead of me going down. Coming up the escalator toward us is another one. And I watched these two guys give each other the head nod, just like pilots do.
They can identify based on the uniform or the outfit.
Sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
And it warmed my heart to see this. I thought it's another little brotherhood that exists out there. Yeah. Hey, all right. You know what all right, go ahead. I was going to go off onto another wild tangent.
No. We got to move on from the head. No, I can't. It's going to get worse. Let's go.
All right. So this is one of those weird, quirky things that we've seen in the course of our days. There's so many more. So, got any?
Do I have any? Oh boy. So let's roll back 15-ish years ago. I had been laid off from my cargo job, and I had jumped on with a regional airline. I'll try to keep things mildly anonymous so that I don't get stalked by this guy. In a crash pad. So
hold on. Before you do that, I just want to say this is a perfect. Yes, we're trying to keep names out of this as much as we possibly can, and I think we do that. But I think if you tell a story that makes somebody look like as big a jackass as you can possibly imagine, is there ever going to come a time when that person recognizes themselves and stands up and say, "Hey, that's me"?
Some of these stories are pretty specific there. I don't know. We'll see. But I'd be happy if they self-acknowledge the weird stuff they did in front of other people. So anyway, let's explain crash pad real quick. If you haven't heard in the past, a bunch of pilots.
What's a crash pad?
So we don't always work where we live.
That sounds dangerous.
Yes, I don't know when the term was coined.
Is it a safety feature? Is it at the end of the runway to stop us from an overrun?
When did the term crashing, like for sleeping, become a thing? The 70s. I'm gonna go crash here for the night.
I have no idea, but let's say so.
Okay, so let's say it sounds like crash here, man. 70s, dude. Like that's what it sounds like to me. So let's go with the 70s. Crash pad. Like, it's your pad. Where's your pad, man? My pad's over here. It's where I crash at night. Anyway, crash pad is a place where lots of crew members sleep when they're away from home but working. So some people will live in Denver and be based in Chicago. Some are based in New York City and they live in Orlando and so on. So you find a temporary place to stay the night before and after your flights. If you're a reserve pilot or flight attendant, you'll stay there and wait around and watch TV until you get called in. Anyway, my crash pad had 8 people sharing a house together. And in my crash pad was someone I would consider to be cultish.
Oh?
Like, I wouldn't say cult leader. He had a lot of leadership pamphlets that he handed out, telling other people how they can be leaders. But he was the leader.
Oh. Wait, now, is this something that he had picked up somewhere, or did he make these?
I believe he used his flight benefits as a pilot to go travel around. He would rent space in hotel conference centers. He always had pamphlets and posters rolled up in his bag, and he would go decorate these conference rooms at hotels. So he would come in a day or two before his work and use this crash pad, and he would get his material set up. And then he'd come in and he'd hand us these pamphlets, the new pamphlets of the month on how to be a leader. Bro, we're captains. We're all leaders already. Captains of the ship. Anyway, I think he used his captain leadership role at the airline to influence people that are seeking help.
He was asking for money too?
I'm sure he was. So he'd come in this absolute hoopty of car. And as soon as he had a conference, you could tell because he went and rented a nice car. And he would drive himself to Princess in a nice car. And it was just a show, Yeah. I mean, you're the captain of a Saab 340. Get over it.
So there's 8 people in this crash pad. What was his conversion rate?
Oh, nobody in the crash pad wanted to hear it. I mean, like I said, we're all pilots. We're all the best of the best, right? Those are the people we are. Type A's. We don't need to hear it.
Yeah.
But the people
Right.
that were his followers, I don't know how much money they gave him or how many attended. I never went to one of his things, and I never actually
Well,
opened those pamphlets he gave us. Anyway, crazy crash
well,
pad. Tell me
sounds like
about
a good
something in your
side gig
crash
for
pad.
him.
You have to have a crazy crash pad story.
You know, I've been very fortunate in my career. I've only had to do the crash pad thing one time for about 5 months out of my career here, in all of my aviation career. However, I did happen to get lodging with some of the most bizarre people that I've encountered in the course of my life. And there's one guy, young guy, good looking guy, party scene kind of guy. He would cook himself up a steak at like 3:00 in the afternoon, and then go to the gym.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Then come home from the gym, cook himself up another steak.
Nice.
And then he would get his t-shirt and his iron, and he would iron his t-shirts. Had to have perfectly wrinkle-free t-shirts to go out on the town. I'm going to just kind of a bizarre dude. And then at one point he was just gone. I didn't see him.
That's how that goes at crash pads, right? Have you ever had like just poof? They move, they change bases, they upgraded, they don't tell anybody, they're just never there again.
Well, that stuff didn't happen, but yeah, he was still in the base. So I finally I ran into him one day. I said, "Where you been?" He goes, "I got sick and tired of that place. I bought a tent. I've been sleeping on the beach."
The steak and how's he press his t-shirts on the beach?
Well, I asked him that. How do you keep your phone charged? How do you manage to stay in touch with the company, keep your computer going? He said, "Well, there's a gym in one of the hotels, so I bought a membership to the gym, and I shower there, and I charge all my stuff, and that's how I managed."
That's genius.
It is genius.
Don't spread that word to too many people. We're going to lose our hotel gym privileges.
It was genius for a while, and I think there was a serial killing that was going around on those beaches right around that same time. So I don't know. Maybe he's still
sleeping on a beach every night for free. I mean, it kind of sounds like it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't sound so bad unless it was wintertime. And then in wintertime, we were all in another base together, and we rented a house, and he slept on the screen porch in the middle of the wintertime up there.
That sounds amazing. I gotta meet this guy. This sounds like my kind of guy.
He still exists. I can set you up.
Set me up. Let's use the social medias.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, so I have a question for you. Can you give me a ballpark time for what year that was?
2008, 2009.
2000. Okay, so same time that I was in a crash pad. This is going to blow some of your minds at home, but the 8 of us split the cost of this house for $200 a month each. And it covered this? Utility. Yeah, I have all my my monthly expense slips for my whole career.
You do?
I do. It had my Verizon cell phone bill, my crash pad bill, my gas. Well, because we didn't get paid very much back then. I had to make sure that every dollar, I had $20, $30 increments set up for gas. I'm just surprised
I can't believe you saved it all these years.
Some pilots are very frugal, and some pilots, like myself, I just have the records. I just had this little spreadsheet rolled up. It was folded neatly, and it was tucked in with my social security card and my birth certificate, this neat little folder I have at home. And every once in a while I need to go get my car title out of there to sell it or something. And I go, oh, look at that nostalgic document in the important documents folder. That was my bills tracking sheet. So $200 each, 8 ways, $1,600. It covered the mortgage. It covered utilities. It covered the cable bill, kept the power on, washing, dryer, the basement covered. And every couple of months somebody would buy a bag of laundry or bottle of laundry detergent, and somebody contribute a little bit of dryer sheets. It was a team effort. Everyone stole the hotel soaps and shampoos, and we used those.
Not stealing. They're not stolen.
No,
when you're a guest in a hotel, that is yours to take.
You're right.
You see fit.
You're right. But if you brought it home, did you actually clean yourself at the hotel?
No. You know what I would do?
Ask extra in the hallway.
No, because there's one bar of soap for the sink. There's one bar of soap for the shower.
Okay.
I would use 1 bar of soap, move it back and forth, and I would take the rest of it, give it to my next door neighbor who ran a pantry at the high school. She was a teacher in the high school, and she ran a pantry for the less privileged children. So
that's wonderful. How wonderful of you. You're a good person.
I am very much a humanitarian, but you mentioned a lot of things in about your Verizon bill and your laundry soap and stuff. So when we all got to this other house at the northern climate in the wintertime, there was a new guy in that house, and he was like the house mother, like there's always these guys that they want to put themselves in charge of everything. So he had all these rules. Now, grown ass people living in this house, paying, $200 a month. We were all paying the same. Maybe this guy was paying a little bit more. I don't know. But all I know is we all had our own bed in that. And I'm sleeping in a top bunk now. I remember this now. I'm 35 years old, and I'm climbing into a top bunk, trying to remember how my life took this turn. And the first morning I wake up in this bed, this house mother walks in to change a light bulb in the ceiling fan of my bedroom in which I was sleeping. Have you ever changed a light bulb?
It's not quiet, if that's what you're getting at.
It's not quiet, but it's also not that complex. You unscrew the bulb, screw in the new one, project over, right?
Should be.
No, should be. Yeah, this idiot shut off the power to the house in order to do this.
Is this a time when you needed power?
Yeah, well, it's also a time when I had my brand new phone that I had just bought plugged in.
Oh.
And the power surge fried my new phone.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but also, there was no need to change that light bulb at that moment. There were sleeping people in that room. It was not his room. He had assigned himself the master suite of that house. So he had a room all to himself. He didn't need to go into this room with 3 other people in their bunks, sound asleep. He was just a creepy, weird dude. Yeah, he wanted us to leave a quarter on the dryer in case we were going to use it to replace the dryer sheets. Yeah.
Just bring some dryer sheets. Like, put some in a bag and bring them from home. You need one
it was a
per
full
week.
House too. I mean, full kitchen, all the appliances. He was.
How many people?
Oh gosh, at least 8, if not 10.
Okay, that's a good number to share a house because you're not all there sometimes.
You're not all there at the time. Yeah, no, he didn't want us to use the dishwasher. Well, if you load, somebody's just going to not unload it. Well, I'll unload it. If I use it, I'll unload it. No, so just don't. He was just a jackass.
So folks at home, in case you're wondering, because all of our schedules are different, we don't work for the same people. The pilots in these crash pads sometimes are by themselves. Even though there's 8, 10, 12 people living in a house, the odds that you and the other person are there at the exact same time for the 4 to 5 times per month you need to actually sleep there is rare. And I can't remember a time when we had more than 6 out of 8 or 5 out of 8 there at the same time.
And you don't always work for the same company, too. If you're in a big enough city where you have multiple airlines with crew bases there, you could have different. And I've heard of mixed crash pads with pilots and flight attendants in them. I don't know what goes on there. Very different types of people.
Yeah, sometimes they have like a male and a female floor with a different bathroom or something like that. Or that opens up a lot of liability, in my opinion. I don't want to have that discussion with my wife, and I don't want to have the accusation liability of anything. So I wouldn't do one personally.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. And like I said, I've only had to do this a handful of months in my very long career.
You have all these great stories in just 3 crash pad months. Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that something? Well, that's not even all of them. I have more, but
I've got more
we
too.
should move on.
Do we have an hour episode here? Because I think we're halfway through.
Yeah, we might.
Okay, because I think we have an episode of just crash pad stories. I got to throw this one out. So the owner of the house establishes a more personal relationship with me because I'm there a lot more. I was an on-call pilot. I didn't have scheduled flights, so a lot of the pilots came in at 8 p.m. knowing they had to leave at 5 a.m. on the dot, and they already missed this flight, and then they won't come back for a week and a half. I just kind of hung up till my phone rang. So he would ask me for things like, can you mow the lawn? I'll take $20 off the rent. No problem. I'll go in the garage, get a lawnmower, mow the lawn. He asked, can you clean out the fridge one time? And this was in 2000 and 2009, maybe 2010. Anyway,
You better get to it. That milk is going to spoil.
yeah. So, well, I'm looking at expiration dates. There's like 5 bottles of mustard. Like, let me get the newest mustard. We'll leave the newest mustard in here. The other 4 are garbage, right?
Did you mix them all? You didn't mix them all into one bottle?
No. Well, I get through the freezer. Now, this is where it gets good. The freezer, I'm digging through. I'm like, oh, this one's good. It's a year old. That's good. 6 months old. Da, da, da. I'm like, ooh, a pack of bacon. I would love some bacon.
Oh, yeah.
It expired in August of 2001.
But it's frozen though, right?
7 years of frozen, or 8 years.
Frozen is frozen.
I don't know. And it's salted meat. I agree.
Come on, we've thought out cavemen. They've become lawyers. We can eat bacon.
But I kept forever referred to it as the pre 9/11 bacon.
Oh,
because it's like a landmark in time, right? And
oh my God,
we are 7 or 8 years removed from the terror that was 9/11 and the everything that involved with aviation. And I'm walking around the crash pad,
isn't it?
Like, guys, there's like 3 people. I'm like, I go to the living room. Guys, this bacon is pre 9/11 bacon.
You had to eat it at that point, right?
No, we did not.
Oh, maybe preserve it somehow and mount it.
Yeah. Nobody with an expert. Well, that means if the expiration date was August of 2001, that means that bacon was probably put on a shelf plenty of months before that.
Oh, that's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have plenty of frozen bacon. In fact, I just got home from Costco and bought a whole bunch more.
Those are so good. The double big packs of bacon, they're super thick, right? Yeah. So how long can you freeze those?
Forever.
Oh, stop.
Freezing?
No.
Freezing is that magical thing that everybody can do. And yeah. We bought a couple of years ago, a quarter of a cow. There was a farm on the corner that was processing meat, and you could buy a quarter cow. And we bought enough meat that we had to buy a new freezer. And then every year he was selling another quarter cow. So I don't know. I've got some of that original cow still in there. Some of those cow parts that I'm just not interested in, but can't throw away.
Oh,
so they stay there.
Next time I come by your area, I'll take it.
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
I thought the year it was like 1 to 2 years in a deep freezer. I thought that was my rule of thumb that was handed down to me. I guess I could read it or Google it, but I didn't.
Well, I don't know who makes these rules. If you vacuum seal it, I think it does last a bit longer.
Which the bacon from Costco was already vacuum sealed, so you must be in business.
But
and it's salted meat, cured.
Yeah, so I think you would have been fine. I think you missed out. I'm sorry.
Pre 9/11 bacon. Do you ever not sleep in the crash pad?
Oh yeah, you like just stay up all night and have a party.
Like you land from your flight and you can't leave till tomorrow. So you're like, I'll just sleep in the airport. Like we see people doing this between flights. There once or twice a year that they get missed a connection, but we got to do this weekly.
So when my first airline job, a regional airline, we were based in Washington, D.C., DCA National Airport, right across the Potomac from the city. And all the regional airlines were relegated to this one area out away from the real jets. So we just kind of hung out there. Well, there are these little areas underneath the terminals or behind walls or through locked doors that the general public doesn't have access to. Our little crew room where the crew is, we hang out there in between flights.
It's a break room. It's a break room
for pilots. It's what it is. It's a break room for flight attendants and pilots. Ours was an old converted janitor's closet.
Oh.
So, it still had the big industrial wash sink with all the pipes running through. And, there was this old couch that was just nasty, springs popping up here and there, and the cushions falling through to the floor. So I did on occasion spend a night or two in there because it was just easier.
So you just put some chairs together, or do you have like a bed? Is there a recliner?
I think if any of that's available, sure, you can do that.
But where do you sleep, on the floor?
Otherwise, I have slept on the floor. Okay. Yeah. I've slept on the floor before. I've slept in recliners. I slept on that nasty couch. There were actually showers down the hall, I discovered one day. I don't know who these showers were for. Maintenance people, ground personnel, but I was happy they were there because after a night in that janitor's closet, I just was disgusting.
See, I would be more comfortable sleeping in a cockpit pilot seat, honestly, than like just leave me in the airplane and shut the door and close the jetway away. Leave me in the plane. I'll see you in the morning.
But nobody's going to let you do that.
But tell me how much less safe, like how much less productive that if you were going to be stuck sleeping in an airport as a crew member, you're better off sleeping in the plane. I know they won't let you to TSA, blah blah blah. You'll steal the plane.
Yeah, you're not going to get any sleep. Certainly not quality sleep. If I'm there for 10 hours, 8 hours, whatever it would be, I'd be lucky to get 2 of those as actual sleep. Which reminds me of a story. I was based up there in DC, and on occasion I would go get a hotel room, $50 a night, come with donuts. There'd be donuts in the morning, and I would usually go there if I had back-to-back trips. Well, I was doing a trip with a guy. We finished the trip, and we were starting another one the next day. So I was just going to go to the hotel. He goes, "Oh, no. You don't need to spend your money on a hotel. You come home with me. You spend the night in my spare room." Oh, okay. I guess that's very generous. Thank you. What he didn't tell me was that he lived 2 hours away. And we only had it was like regional flying. They would routinely schedule you for the bare minimum rest in between your duty days. So we had 8 hours. We had 8 hours to drive his 2-hour distance. Plus, he had a routine of stopping at this very specific gas station on the way for coffee. And
even does that include the 8 hours? Does that include like a shuttle time to the
No. It's 8 hours from the time you set the parking brake until you report for duty. Or actually, no, it wasn't even for report. I think it was the flight time. Maybe it was report time. Either way, not a lot of time. So.
That's changed since with the new regulations.
Yeah. Well, we're going back. So yeah, we do the 2-hour drive with the coffee stop. Then we get to his house, and I get to meet the family, and I got to spend some time talking to the family,
I just want to close my eyes.
To know. And then it's another 2 hours. So of my 8 hours, 4 of it is spent in transit. And you think that was worth saving $50?
Just at that point, that $50 was better spent at a Motel 6.
Absolutely, it was. But
boy,
better than sleeping in the old crew rooms.
So I didn't have too bad of a time with the crew rooms. I slept in a recliner a bunch. I've slept, I don't know if it was like a cot, maybe like a cot that came out of the wall or unfolded. I've done it, from that. And in cargo, especially, we've slept in some really weird places.
I'll bet.
There's
one where I bet you could sleep in the airplane.
Oh yeah, the cargo area. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we used to have these cargo nets that would go over. You know what I'm talking about? They look like big hammocks.
Please, tell me you made a hammock out of the nets.
Absolutely. Well, no, I would roll one up as a pillow.
Oh.
And then I would roll another one. I'd fold it a couple of times and make kind of the cleanest version of a bed that I could make on the hard floor.
Okay.
Sometimes the net, I couldn't decide what was more dirty, the net or the floor. But
I don't know if it makes a difference.
No, you just take some sacrificial company issued clothing and lay it down, because then you can replace that, right? I'm not going to buy new T-shirts and personal clothes when it's all dirty and destroyed from the floor, and the grease and the dust and the plastic shavings and all the things that are on a cargo plane floor. But yeah, we would use the cargo nets. I know some guys made hammocks. But honestly, for me, the cockpit was more comfortable. I just put the seat in full recline. Put my feet up and kind of pass out in a reclined position. That was in a 1972 Boeing 727. They were not as comfortable as the Airbus seats for sure.
Oh, well,
but the Airbus seats were comfortable. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I miss those foot stirrups though. Those Airbus foot spots are nice.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. Sometimes I forget about them, and then when I rediscover them again, it's like, hey, cool. Have there been moments where you've just seen weird things out in full view of everybody? Because I have.
Please tell me a couple. I'll try to drum some up here in my head.
I mean, I've seen there's weird things that pilots carry around with them. You can see them hanging off their bag, I've seen guys that have like a fold up bike on the back of their bag going
Like
around
crew
in
members or
airports.
passengers?
Yeah, crew member takes a bike with him, folds it up.
Oh, this
Gonna go
changes
for.
things.
He's gonna go
That
for.
shortens the list of
Oh,
things to think about a lot.
oh, really?
Well, yeah, because I mean, you see people bringing weird stuff through airports all the time, but like a uniformed crew member, that makes things stand out really easily. All right, so tell me more
Oh,
about this
yeah.
bicycle.
So the bicycle, it folds up and it hooks onto the back of your suitcase. So it just hangs back there with, like if you don't have a cat, you put a bike in its place, or your computer bag, your manuals. So you get to the layover hotel and you're like, I'm ready to go cycling, and you unfold your bike and you go. I've heard about guys carrying around giant coolers, picnic coolers. I've seen them. You get in the flight deck and this guy has this giant picnic cooler. Well, he's walking through the airport with that so everybody can see it. Like, is this pilot going on a picnic? What is the deal? And I'm not talking about your little, tiny bag that can hold a couple of sandwiches and some chips. I'm talking about full on picnic cooler that you got to drag on wheels.
Like the igloo, the one that you take out of the back of your pickup truck for a tailgate party.
Yes.
That kind of cooler. That's wild. I have not. But to be fair, they make them with wheels now. And if it just hooks onto your bag and just wheels around, like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't find that if it's a wheeled accessory and it's in tow, and I call it my train behind my bag, because sometimes I'll have like the standard 22-inch by 14 roller bag, then I have the hook, and the hook hangs another bag. Well, sometimes that bag has wheels, so it does look like a little train as I roll these things through.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said the word train because it reminded me. Here's a fun story. You seen these baggage carts driving around out on the ramp?
Oh yeah, the train of
the train of baggage carts. So I'm parked at a gate one day and sitting in the flight deck, staring at the terminal, when out of nowhere comes the baggage cart hauling ass around the corner, zipping around the nose of the plane. He turned so fast that thing rolled over. It was at least 3 cars long.
Oh man!
Every car went skidding across the ground, sparks flying, bags flying, and the guy. Nobody was hurt, thankfully. The guy gets up and he's just standing there, looking at the shattered debris of everybody's vacation, which was so it was between the airplane and the terminal. So anybody standing at those windows saw this thing, and it was beautiful.
And this was the baggage for your plane, or do we not know whose plane?
I don't know. I would love to believe it was, but I don't know. And it's not the first time I've seen that, believe it or not.
So I've seen like a bag fall out and go, oh, someone's going to be upset, right? Like it'll find its way eventually. They'll get it there.
Yeah.
And, I've seen bags break, but I've never seen like a like a derailed train image that you're putting into my head here.
Well, I've seen it twice, believe it or not. No.
Oh boy.
The second time I saw it, it was over on the side of the airplane where they load the bags. So on the baggage compartment area. And in this case, it was right behind the wing of the airplane. So this thing's laying on its side and it's time to go. Airplane can't go anywhere because this thing is in the way.
Oh yeah, you can't roll the plane back. It's in the way.
So they get like 10 guys over there to try to right the thing, and it's not getting back up on its wheels. It's just too heavy. They get it a little ways and it would fall back down. Get a little. Then some genius had the idea to bring the belt loader over, which is that. How do you describe a belt loader? It's the thing you put the suitcases on that shimmies them all the way up into the plane, and it raises and lowers, at an angle. So they take the end of this belt loader and they drive it up into under, somehow they wedge it under this baggage cart, and they start raising the belt loader up. And the baggage cart is starting to go up, and hey, this is working. It looks like it's going to go. And everybody's kind of stands back, and it goes up a little higher, and it goes up a little higher, and then it would just slide right off the end of it and crash back down. And they did that probably did that about 10 times. Until they realize if we get it up to a point before it falls back down, we can get those 10 guys to just kind of hold it up, and then they eventually pushed it over.
That sounds like an OSHA violation to me. I don't think that's a good idea. But I wasn't there. I didn't see it. So you just reminded me. We were
Sure.
loading cargo in Mexico, which there's no OSHA in Mexico. For those of you at home who deal with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, they're in charge of making sure that everything you do is done safely. They're in charge of like harnesses when you're climbing up something tall, or having good boots on when you work under heavy equipment and things like that. So in Mexico, there is no OSHA. We have some cargo to be loaded aboard our aircraft, and the forklift they have is, let's say, under certified for the weight we have to lift. So they pick up our pallets. I don't remember how much the pallets weighed, but they put the pallet on the forklift, and they picked it up from the loading dock area. And they usually, when they drive a forklift, they just lift the cargo a few inches off the ground and they drive. They keep it low while they drive, right? So if you hit the brakes, it doesn't go flying off. And once they get close to the aircraft, they lift the cargo up much higher at a stationary position and then slowly roll forward and set it inside the plane. Well, as this cargo is coming up, the whole forklift just starts to teeter on its front axle.
Oh boy!
Because the cargo on the forks is, if you can picture this in your head, is too heavy, and it's lifting the entire weight of the forklift. So I'm very concerned that this is going to hit our aircraft, because if it tilts forward and the metal of that forklift's lift hits the plane, it would damage the plane, and we won't be able to fly anywhere. Sure. So we had this thing called the stop work condition. And if you see something unsafe, you just tell it, stop work, everybody stop everything until we sort this out. So I do stop work. I call the people I'm supposed to call. I say, hey, I'm calling a stop work. This is going to damage the plane. Someone's going to get hurt. So then the U.S. cargo company I work for calls the Mexican company down there. What's going on? Why aren't we getting this? Of course, it's not about safety. It's why isn't the cargo getting loaded? Why is the captain telling everyone to stop? And I send pictures.
Them money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Money and time. Time is money. So I send pictures of this forklift teeter-tottering on its axle. This is going to end bad if this guy lifts this stuff
teetering,
up.
Yeah, it's teetering long enough for you to go out there, set up your tripod, get your camera, get the proper lens out there. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and I said it's not even high enough to get in the plane yet. When it goes even higher, that moment of gravity and is just going to topple this thing. So anyway, of course, nobody wants to listen. We got to get the stuff loaded. So OSHA approved adjustment to the forklift. Some guys come out with some sandbags, and they put sandbags on the back of the forklift, the other side of it that was too light.
I was going to suggest some Mexicans came out and just stood on the back end of it.
Oh, we'll get there.
Okay.
So they put about 400 pounds of sandbags on the furthest opposite side of the forklift, and now it's okay. And I don't know if this is popular in the U.S., but in Mexico, like whistles, they whistle through their teeth to communicate. Like, all right. I can't do it, but like, that means keep coming, and then whoop, like that means stop, and they use their hands and whistles and instead of words. So the whistling is commencing, and when the pilot, the crew hear whistling, we start to look, because that means things are happening, things are moving. So we start looking at the whistles, and they pick it up, and it's coming up, and it's teeter-tottering. It's like this sandbag. So I take a picture, because everything's liability for the captain, right? 4 bars on the captain's shoulders means it's all my fault. That's those 4 bars stand for. The first officer has 3 bars. It stands for not my fault. That's a joke. It's not really what it stands for. Anyway.
No, it's true. Yeah. It's never the FO's fault.
So we put the sandbag, or they put the sandbags on. They tried teeter. It's still teeter-totter. I get a picture with the sandbags. Send this back to say, hey, here's what's going on. Well, this isn't acceptable. This is just not safe. We need more weight back there. So they call Mexico. Mexico goes, don't worry. No problem. We fix it. We'll fix it. 5 Mexicans jump on the back of this forklift on top of the sandbags.
I was right.
So 400 pounds of sandbags and 500 or 600 pounds of Mexicans. Now we have a balanced forklift. This would never be legal in the U.S. to accomplish such a task. So they get the stuff in the plane safely. Everything's okay. But you only see these kind of things out of the U.S. There's just the liability culture here. It just would never allow such a thing.
Well, aren't you glad you get to travel to places where they can think outside of the box?
Until
outside of
it
the
puts a
safety
hole in
box.
my aircraft.
That never happens.
Oh boy.
Right?
So hey, tell me about this. Tell me about this. You said there was like a train of carts driving around, like everyone's seen probably out the side window of the plane. The train of bags. What about the train in the terminal? The
train
not a
in the
train, but
terminal.
it's like a people runner. It's like an 8-passenger golf cart that like runs people over.
Sure.
I don't know. Is it Atlanta and a couple other airports?
Yeah, that's for the. That's not the special crew transportation.
Definitely not for
between
crew.
gates. No, these are little golf cart type things that they use to move people. Who?
No, is there a lane for them in the terminal?
I haven't seen any lanes.
Of course not. Never. They just shove people out of the way using a horn.
There's a horn or a beep.
Or
incessant
beep.
Or
an angry man at the front yelling at everyone.
Get out of the way!
Yes!
Get out of the way!
You've been there. You know what I'm talking about.
I've gotten out of the way. Yeah, when I hear that, I step aside.
Because that thing ain't stopping. I mean, if it runs you over, you're not going to go to work, and they're not going to...
No, they're not equipped. They're not equipped with a brake pedal. No, but your special VIPs, I would love. Sometimes I think, gosh, if only I could get that cart to get.
No. Those aren't VIPs. I believe that those are like the elderly and the handicapped that can't make their connections. The VIPs at some airlines have like a Porsche pick them up gate side. Have you seen this?
Oh, I've seen that too.
Yeah, there's like a Porsche or a Lexus or something fancy, and they go, no, you don't need to walk through with the peasants. Please come down this secret door with a code on it, the one that's to your left as you exit the jet bridge, usually. Yeah, and they get to go into this. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the problem with having the VIPs down there is that they suddenly see all the things that we see.
Are they supposed to?
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, is there a risk to them seeing the operation down below the airplane? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I just think they're permitted access on a sterile environment. If we're supposed to be like the world's leading guard in aviation security as the flight crew, and then they'll just take Joe Schmo who has a lot of money and be like, "Come on down here where nobody else is allowed to be."
Yeah, I think that's what happens.
So money makes you not matter, I guess. Yeah.
Maybe not. Reminds me of time I was sitting in an airplane one time in between flights for 45 minutes, just staring out the window at the terminal. And there's one of these big ice chests, the ice cooler, like
outside of a gas station with those two doors.
Exactly. Yeah. The same thing. Yeah. Well, this one was really big and it had the really big doors. You've seen these ones, right?
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
So we're in Dallas, Texas, summertime. It's about 120 degrees out on the ramp. And I'm staring out this window for like 30 minutes, just staring at this ice chest. When all of a sudden, one of those big doors opens up and one of the rampers hops out of the thing and has been sleeping in it or resting, somehow taking their afternoon siesta for the last 30 minutes at least.
No. Yeah. Oh, that's gross.
Yeah. So can you imagine your VIP comes down and he sees that just after having ordered his nice martini on the rocks?
Oh, no, but that's the ice that you asked them to scoop into your cup of Diet Coke in the back of it. And that dude in his sweaty butt and his sweaty jacket and the grease. Oh, no.
Yes. Well, you want to hear a worse story about that ice?
Oh, please don't.
Oh, I'm going to. Back when I was a flight attendant, they used to cater us, and the ice would come packed in a little ice thing with 5 pounds of dry ice surrounding it.
Cool.
To keep it, solid. Well, it would really solidify these ice bags to the point where we had to break them up before we could start our service.
Slam it on the ground, right?
One way we would slam it on the dirty, nasty airplane ground.
Right outside the lavatory.
Right outside the lavatory. And then pick up that bag. It's the plastic bag. Put the bag back into the ice box that came in.
No.
Then open the bag, and all the ice would go in that box that was now contaminated.
All right. So just to do some contact tracing here, which is a new word I've learned in the last few years.
Oh yeah.
The ice came in sterile, and then it had to be broken up, and there's no surface harder and more solid to break it on than the floor. But the floor where they delivered the ice happened to be 3 footsteps removed from the lavatory And that
Right.
lavatory is where everybody pees all over the floor. And they don't wash their hands. If they wash their hands, you're lucky, right? But they don't wash the floor, and they don't wash the bottom of their feet. And then they trek their way out, and that's where you guys are saying, "Oh, gross! It's pee ice."
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. You think that doesn't still happen?
I'll tell you what. My favorite, and I hate to make a positive light of COVID, but my favorite part of COVID was how clean everything was.
Oh yeah.
They microbanned the aircraft. Oh, people were ruining that. So they would put microban overnight when the planes were parked for the night. You know, that spray was kind of sticky, but it was like you cannot infect this surface for 24 hours because it had the sticky on it. So microban was sprayed in all the planes, and they'd coat everything with this gaseous, it was like a sticky mist. And now germs could not stick to said item. So that means the seat backrests, the armrests, the seats, the tray table, everything was microban coated. So that plane was sterile for at least 24 hours. The bathrooms, right? Well, people would come in with their bleach wipes because they want to be clean and they want to be safe, and they would wipe the microban off with their bleach wipes. And then, and that means that they clean the germs off at that point for them. But like an hour later, when they got off that plane, now it's germ susceptible again because they wiped the microban off. It was a nice valiant effort while it lasted. And as soon as the airlines figured out that their expensive microban machines were being wiped away on day one, leg one, they stopped spending the money on that. Now they just gave everybody those sandy wipes and say, okay, we just wipe your own stuff down.
Yeah, I had one the other day. Our water wasn't working, and I opened the sandy wipe, and it was dry as could be.
Was it a pre-COVID sandy wipe?
Must have been.
Pre 9/11 bacon and pre-COVID sandy wipes.
If they didn't vacuum seal or put it in the freezer, it would have been perfect. Well, we could go on forever. We've been talking about this stuff for an hour.
Nearly
a lot
an hour.
I know. There's a lot more on my list, but I think we need to move on to.
Let's give the listeners a break. They're probably arrived at wherever they're driving to by now, and they need to get out.
I'm sure they'll appreciate that because they haven't figured out they can turn us off if they need to.
Pause us, restart us next time you're in the car. Next time you're bored at work.
No. We've more to talk about. More stories. Worst pilots coming up. Things that you don't ever want to say to your pilot. These are things coming up on. You know what we're going to do one of these days? Did I tell you this?
No.
I have big plans. Aviation themed movie reviews.
Oh, that's a few episodes worth.
It's going to be a few, and I think we're going to have to preview that ahead of time so that our listener can watch and enjoy as we break down all the things that are wrong with Hollywood's take on flying.
I love it. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it. It's coming up. But for now, man, keep your eyes open out there, folks. You're going to see some weird, crazy, quirky things.
I'm excited. Well, this is Co-Captain Richard Millian. I'm signing off.
And I'm MC Howe. We'll see you next time.